Hey friends, Hannah Nicklin here, Hannah from the future in fact, because this podcast was recorded a few weeks ago, meaning that it predates Die Gute Fabrik's world premiere as part of Day of the Devs at Summer Games Fest, where we announced our brand new story-driven adventure game, Saltsea Chronicles. There you go. That's a fanfare. Please do check it out, either on our socials, where we're Gute Fabrik, which is GUTEFABRIK, or by heading to saltseachronicles.com, or also write to Steam, where wishlisters could help us find more people to tell about the game. So if you've been enjoying these podcasts, it would be an awesome way for you to say thank you. Okay, that's enough from future Hannah. Now I'm going to throw it to past Hannah to kick off the show proper.
I've been into places, like geographical places that I've never been into my life. I've met people that do not exist, but somehow I had very long and deep conversation.
Hello and welcome to One Cool Thing, a podcast from indie game studio Die Gute Fabrik, hosted by me, Hannah Nicklin. One Cool Thing is a podcast speaking with people in and around video games about one cool thing not from games, which is really interesting them right now. We'll introduce them and their practice, talk about the one cool thing they've brought to the conversation, and consider how it's shaping how they think about their work. It's a chance to hear more about the practices of cool folks working in games, and hopefully somewhere where we can all reflect on how we think about how we make things. So, without further ado, let me introduce our guest. Ciao e benvenuta Claudia nel podcast, ma non chiedermi più di parlare italiano perché ho dimenticato tutto il resto. Purtroppo non parlo più italiano bene. In inglese.
Sei bravissima.
Or allora, as my Italian teacher used to say. That was me using the remaining Italian I have at my disposal since the international trauma of the COVID pandemic wiped me entirely of the year I spent learning it and living there. It literally just left my memory. Something about like just living alone in an apartment for a year made me forget everything that happened before it. But Claudia is one of the lovely people who made me feel super welcome in Milan when I lived there. Claudia is a graphic designer, illustrator and art director originally from Italy, but who also lived in the UK for a while. After working as a graphic designer for a number of years, she co-founded We Are Muesli with Matteo Pozzi, who are an indie game studio who focus on story-driven games like Venti Mesi, a game about an Italian anti-fascist movement. And they also work on non-digital games too. A personal favorite of mine is Colp di Stato, which is a card-based game that sees you explore the 1972 attempted coup by Junio? Do you do the J's?
Yeah, you pronounce the J.
Okay, Giunio Valero Borghese in Rome, where the far right tried to seize power in the country. I love the broad spectrum of work that Claudia and We Are Muesli do, and it's always beautiful, chewy, and united by a political interest, which always makes it stand out to me. Claudia, we've got Italian pronunciations you can offer corrections on. We've got a whole biog there for you add to or clarify, so start where you like.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah. Your Italian was amazing, and I wish my English could level to your Italian. It was really good, actually.
It was a pre-prepared sentence, which I would not be able to do. In your English is obviously much better than mine. Let's not allow you to get that under the wire. Carry on.
Well, I'm always really scared about talking in English because I want to be perfect in everything that I do, but perfection doesn't exist. And I know that I can not be perfect with my English, and this is making me a little bit like anxious. But yeah, your presentation about my work was stunning. There is nothing really I could add apart from the fact that during the pandemic I still am a mother, but being a mother during the pandemic was the little bit that made me rethink about my life quite a bit. So, but yeah, here I am still making games and really happy.
I've said this a couple of times in this sort of series of podcasts so far, but I knew for me that the COVID pandemic has reshaped my life, but I think I hadn't fully plugged in to how many other people it was a massive turning point for. And of course it was. It was huge and it was global, but somehow the stories we tell about the world aren't yet reflecting that. We sort of in film and TV and stuff are sort of trying to move on from it because it was so upsetting, pretend it didn't exist. And that means that I kind of felt a little bit alone with the changes that happened in me and my life and my practice. But in speaking with people, it's changed how everyone thinks about who they are and what they make. And it sounds like it's done the same for you too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think we are all in the neglecting part of the pandemic. Like, it's a process. So then, it will take a little bit of time to understand how much was taken away from us. But in my personal case, it happened that I turned into motherhood during the pandemic. It was just a little bit before my child was 10 months old. So all those little special things like first birthday and things like this were different and difficult. So yeah, it was a massive change, but somehow also it gave opportunities for thoughts.
Really, really interesting. So I'm just going to move us gently towards the introduction of your one cool thing. I just want to attend to one tiny thing from your intro, in that perfection is not a thing, but I think that you have extremely good English. But if there is ever a point you want me to support you with a word or a pronunciation, me and the listening audience will be extremely supportive of that. So you should feel very sort of safe, hopefully, in our hands. In that context, I wonder if you wanted to offer us your one cool thing.
My cool thing that I want to bring here is dreaming. When I talk about dreaming, I mean what you do when you go to sleep, like not fantasizing about future or about life or about what you should do tomorrow, but literally like going to bed, lay down and fall gently into your dreams. And the reason why I offered and I wrote to you that, I don't know, my topic could be this one, is because I've always dreamed a lot. And when I was little, I thought that dreaming was within everybody's reach and that everybody dreamed in the same way. Of course, some ways of dreaming can have, like, I would say, similarities with many dreamers. But I discovered over time that it's not the case, that not everyone could, for example, continue dreams once they woke up, or dream a distinct smell. And it's easier to dream for some than for others. And I thought, well, at some point I realized, well, I'm a very cool dreamer. I dream a lot, and I can make my dreams happen, and I can pilot my dreams, and I can move things. I can do so many things when I'm dreaming. And since I was little, I started to think that it was somehow a little superpower, personal like superpower that I was mastering during the night. And at the same time, I always wanted, in a way, find a way to record all my dreams. And wishing that technologies in the future could support this. But I don't know, it just feels like, it just feels like AI is there, but not the dream recording machine. So, which is a pity.
I love these big topics. I also love when people bring really specific things in, but the big woolly topics, there's so many different directions we can go in. I am also a pretty vivid dreamer. So I'm not coming from a kind of position of like, oh, I never remember my dreams, which we know plenty of people who feel that way. I do dream super vividly. I've never woken up and not dreamt. And I have a lot of recurring storylines over the years in my dreams. So climate crisis is a really big theme in my dreams. I grew up in a part of England which is very prone to flooding. It's below sea level. And I was super aware of flooding as a threat to my life from when I was very young. But increasingly, I have dreams about tsunamis that you have to sort of escape, and preparing to escape a flood and the things that you pack. I also have a number of dreams which have grown over the years, but are basically an underground resistance dream. So I'm
Wow.
like a part of an underground resistance to some kind of dictatorship, and it's normally like running and escaping from people who are trying to track me down and reuniting with my contacts and all of that kind of thing. Um, there was one version of that dream where I sort of got lost in a bike shop and was trying to build myself a bike so I could get away. So as I've got more interested in
Wow.
bikes have sort of threaded their way into those sort of recurring plot lines. Now that's how I personally have experienced dreams, and I occasionally compile my dreams in directions, but I wouldn't call myself. I think there's a word for it in English, which is someone who can control their dreams.
Lucid dreamer.
Lucid dreamer. Yeah, there you go. See, your English is already better than mine. So yeah, I wouldn't describe myself as a lucid dreamer. I can nudge my dreams in directions. I feel like I'm sort of there, but not. But I wonder if you like had any place you could start with regards to your life spent dreaming. Do you have reoccurring dreams? Do you have
I do. I do recurring dreams, but dreaming has been a very big part of my life. And I, I don't know how to put it in simple words, but it's as my life is divided into what I do in real life and what I do when I dream. And I could talk about my dream like for 3 hours. When I wake up, I could say, I dreamt about and go for like literally once 60 full 60 minutes talking about, and then this happened and then that happened, and they are full of details and things like this. And I think that um, somehow my dreams are as important as what happens in my life. Like I feel so connected to my, is it an English word? Oniric life, like the life that happens when you go down into the state of dreams. And I know that it sounds a little bit like maybe someone from the outside could say, "Oh my God, she's a little bit out of place. She's talking about dreaming and dreaming." Like, but yeah, like in my dream, I meet people. I see things that I've been into places like geographical places that I've never been into my life. I've met people that do not exist, but somehow I had very long and deep conversation. And I woke up saying, "Oh my God, what happened? Who was this person? Why was he talking about such and such?" So slightly, I started to have my own category of dreams. Like, dreams have specific, uh, there are specific types, like we said, lucid dreams, which are those dreams where the dreamer is aware of being inside the dream. And, at some point you say, "Oh no, I really don't want this to happen. I want this person to move out. I want this house to disappear. I want this street to appear so I can walk and I can go over there." So you have lucid dream, then you have vivid dream, like the ones that you were talking about. They're so vivid and intense and realistic, and you have these amazing sensory experiences, and they go from nightmares to erotic dreams, where you have this emotion. You wake up and you say, "Oh my God, I dreamt about that guy and I kissed him. Oh, this happened really." So, and then you have like recurrent dreams, as we said, or, precognitive. There are so many types of dreams, but all those clusters they do not take in consideration the genre of the dream, like the theme, more than the genre, the theme. Like you can have a nightmare about your daily life dream. You know, you dream about something that happened to you during the day, and you have a nightmare about it. But you could have also a dream that is so enigmatic about the same theme. So with time, I kind of started to have this new types of categories. Like, for example, I'm pretty amazed about the amount of people that I meet in my dreams, people that do not exist, and this is so interesting. But also, like, those dreams where you don't have a body, you are some kind of astral, you're a cloud, or you are a sensorial emotion. So dreams are very fascinating to me. I don't know, I sound a little bit like
but I want to, I mean, I think that if maybe someone saw the title of this podcast, like Claudia Molinari, Dreams, like maybe they think we're going to talk about sort of dream interpretation, or maybe we're going to be a bit woolly or hippie about it. And nothing against a podcast that would go in that direction. But I just think it's really legitimate that you have this incredibly vivid nightlife, which it's really hard to refute the premise that would impact your like awake life. When you're waking up from vivid like sensory experiences or stories, like that's going to sort of change you throughout the rest of the day. And like really commonly certain artist practices, like I'm sure the Artist's Way talks about sort of dream diaries as a means of sort of necessarily even emptying your mind of dreams so that you can be a little bit more sort of ready to write creative worlds during the day. But equally, you could draw on those for creative material. So I think that it's really, really, I mean, you don't need me to tell you it's valid, but I think it's a really valid perspective.
I'm pretty sure that once I'm going to hear myself back talking on this podcast, I'm going to feel like Forrest Gump talking about shrimps. But so dreams, I love dreams, things like this. But you just mentioned about, you know, the meaning of dreams, and that is a topic that has followed me through my entire life, thinking about all this kind of creative amount that happens to you every night, and you wake up and you have this big, massive amount of creativity, and you want to find out, why did I dream that my grandma was talking backwards holding a fish or whatever? And you want to find out the meaning. So, and this is how I started gradually getting into the scientific part of the dreams, how dreams happens, and also the folkloristic part, which is the one that it's more interesting to me, of giving like a sort of language to your dream. So everybody has his own vocabulary, dreaming vocabulary, and you need to untangle this movie that happens to you during the night and find a reason why you dreamt exactly that person that was doing that thing, and it's connected to something that happens to you in your real life, maybe the very same day or the day before. I think that everybody should be more keen about their dreams, and everybody should pay more attention. But the problem, which is not a problem, of course, the problem is the majority of the people do not remember about their dreams when they wake up. So I really wonder, you know, my wish would be for one day to imagine to have a Netflix of your dreams. You log in and you have all your dreams that you dreamt for through all your life. And you say, oh my God, really, I did do that? I was flying
And there's an X-rated section.
yeah, so you have all this section. I think that everybody should try at least to give a chance to dare to take a journal for 1 week or for a month. Well, maybe a month is too much, and try to understand, okay, so this dream, does this belong to, is it surrealistic, or it's like a message, or it's an emotional dream, or is an enigma? So trying to polarize all these things.
I think that there is this, even if you turn towards dreams as a form of divination, like tarot, like I Ching, like reading tea leaves, like it's still all a means of telling stories to make sense of our lives. And whether or not you turn to it as a folk tradition or as a scientific practice where you're looking at sort of scientific frameworks for understanding how our brains dream, I think in any of those kind of terms,
Yeah.
they're all means of trying to make sense of like how we live in our lives, in our bodies, in our brains. One of the things though that you talked about when we were sort of chatting ahead of the podcast about the sort of theme you were going to bring in is also how your dreaming had changed in recent years. So I imagine that there were sort of two large changes there. One is motherhood, as you mentioned, which must have at the very least changed how you dream because you get a ton less sleep. And then also you talked about how you felt like your dreaming had changed under COVID. And personally, I found during the very beginning of COVID, during the lockdowns, I my dreams got really happy. It's like my brain was trying to give me a space of connection and people and community. I just moved to a new country. I'd moved from Milan to Copenhagen. I'd had very little time to make friends. And suddenly I wasn't able to, leave the house or go anywhere or do anything safely. And so I was just there, separate from most of my communities. And all of my dreams were really joyful. It was like my brain was trying to provide me with like a survival mechanism. How did you yeah, except I would wake up with this grief because I'd be like, that was gorgeous. Well, and
Yeah,
now
and
I
now
have to
I'm
live
stuck
this
here.
life. Yeah. But yeah, I wonder if you wanted to expand on either motherhood or
Yeah,
COVID and dreaming.
you just said something so important, that it's a surviving mechanism. Dreaming somehow in any forms, it's, to me, it's a surviving mechanism.
Mm.
It's a way of coping with all the loads of information that we are receiving from the outside and from the inside of ourselves. During COVID, it was weird because my dream stopped. I was completely like, I was waking up with no dreams, with like if there was nothing recorded, and that made me very anxious because
Mm.
I was relying a lot to this kind of escapism that Mother Nature gifted me, like the ability of having, as you said, a nightlife, a second life, a virtual life, call it the way that you want. But then slowly, I started to dream, started to refill my mind, and COVID was not there. There was no sign of the pandemic until one day it happened. In my dreams, there was the pandemic. I
Mm.
was wearing a mask in my dream. I was going to do normal things with a mask. And that was the time that I woke up and I said, okay, so now my mind has recorded, this is now part of me forever. Because now I'm dreaming about it in a way that it means that it's true somehow. It's there. It's recorded in my dreaming DNA.
Mm.
And very similarly with my child, I, for many months, I don't know, this is going to sound very unpopular. In my dreams, I was not a mother. I was me before having a baby. And when I say for many months, I would probably for even 24 months, I was childless in my dream. Like I was doing normal things, like, just kind of daily things that you do, maybe work, you have a deadline. in my dream, I had the deadline, but I didn't have my child. Like I was completely free from, it's very bad to say free from my child, but I was completely free from my child. And this means that it takes time for your nightlife to absorb what happens into your daily life.
Mm.
And it is fascinating then to analyze your dreams in this sense. So why some information gets through and why some information are left out.
It's so interesting as well, like the mask thing. My new anxiety dream is I'm in a crowded place and I'm not wearing a mask and I suddenly realize like
Yeah,
it's
that
the
was
new it turns out I'm naked dream. Although I never did have that. I have the dream of being on stage and not having memorized my lines, or needing to deliver all my graphic design coursework the next day and not realizing that I needed to deliver all my graphic design coursework.
yeah, that's but yeah, exactly. Even I had the same dream. Like I had to go to something very important, and there was all the shops were shut, and I couldn't buy this mask to go there. It was really important to be there. So I think that the thing that I'm most attracted to, it's the way you jump from one space to the other. Like, for example, you are in a room, something happened, and you touch an object, and then you get into some other space. And I guess that this is the reason why I'm working in video games. I don't particularly like playing, even though I make games. I'm not a fan of playing games, and I think it's because I dream a lot. And when I play a video game, I can understand that it's a fictional environment, but it's not as close as my dreams. But however, uh, it is true. Like in dreams, you have different levels. You have like also like doors to open, things to unveil, story to untangle. You meet characters you've never met. You have somehow a mission in your dream, which could be explored or skipped. So I think that games are the most like similar thing that we can have.
That's a really lovely segue into the how does this influence your game thinking? So thank you for providing that.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
Ready-made. No, that's excellent. And I just wanted to add that I could see how dreams might be more interesting to you than games because they have this inbuilt physics engine. You don't have to bother like inventing up and down and left and doors. Instead, you can, you can just experiment within this sort of ready, set up engine of imagination. And also, I think there's something to pull out, a thread to pull out from what you're saying there, which is that I think perhaps a lot of people might describe dreams as immersive, but actually I think what you've pointed out there is really, really, really vital. They're not immersive as much as they're associative. They don't wash you away. They're a place where one thing can be associated with another, can be associated with another. They relate to your real life and your emotions and a bunch of stuff where like you can touch something and suddenly be in a completely different space, right? Like immersive would be a dream that was the Matrix. It was exactly like the world that we live in, but not reality. But dreams are this associative space, and they have this inbuilt space for reflection as well, because you wake up from them and you know that they weren't, real for a given value of real. So I think that let's move to games then. This sort of associative space of dreaming, how does it influence your practice as a game designer?
Well, I guess that the fact that, well, our games are pretty solid about historical facts or political facts. So my dreams really do not affect my games in the theme that we choose. I work in games for probably a reflection of my dreams. So I wouldn't say that, okay, I'm dreaming about this and tomorrow I want to make a game about this dream. But sometimes my dreams provide me with solutions, about creative solutions about what I'm working on. Being a visual designer, it is really vital to see things from different perspectives, and dreams definitely gives you corners for exploring the same topic in many different ways. And I also think that the reason why my visual design it's done in the way that it's done, it's because of my dream. I don't think I dream in 3D, which is sounds really technical. I think I dream in 2D. I'm not sure about this because it's really hard, even though we have images when we wake up, but those images somehow, think about it. Actually, everybody think about this. Next dream, try to remember exactly the solidity of your dream. Was it 3D? Was it black and white? Was it color? Was it, when you start making all these questions, the answer is, I can't remember. I do not know. I don't remember. Do you remember? If I give you a sample of voices, can you pick exactly the voice of the person that was talking to you? And you're gonna go, I do not remember. I do not remember. Because they are made of something that cannot be tangible. As much as you can make them tangible, you cannot do it. So I think that this aspect of the dreams is the one that I take into my games. The fact that there are so many I do not know, and I try to use this being able to give answers, to find new answers for my games. I don't know if I answered that.
Oh, well, I wonder if you could pick an example of a game that you've worked on where, like you said, solutions have come from your dreams.
Yeah. Well, maybe with 20 months, 20 mesi. I had this dream of seeing people just with one eye. Just even they just had one eye, which means not one eye like in the middle of the face. It had a side, one eye on the cheek.
Okay.
And no other eyes. And it was so normal in the dream. And I was trying to find a mirror because I wanted to see the color of my eye. What color was my eye, my only eye? And I remember that when I arrived to a place where I was sure to find a mirror, I couldn't reach the mirror because I was too short. And I realized I was a dog. So then when I started to make the visuals about 20 months, then this dream reemerged, and I started to think that maybe it was okay to do people just with one eye the majority of the times. So that's how why the game was.
And just for the sort of listening audience, if you go to the We Are Muesli website, or if you go to the itch page for 20 mesi, which means
full
20
of eyes,
you can see the artwork, which is this beautiful sort of almost like papercraft Picasso.
Yeah.
Like,
well, thank you.
And that same way as a Picasso is sort of strangely proportioned and a 2D arrangement of 3D facial features. That's very much the sort of graphic style of 20 mesi.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really lovely example. And also like, yeah, this interesting space between you're dealing with very like political, like you said, like facts, like hard facts. You're interested in ways of allowing people to explore. I mean, I would say particularly you're interested in the history of fascism in Italy, right? Which is
Yeah.
this it's very present, like you have this I mean, obviously there's Mussolini is, you know, within living memory still. And then also there's a sense in that I got just from a very short time living there that and also my knowledge, small amount of Italian history knowledge, is that it was very much a collection of regions until the project of Italy came together. And it wasn't that long after that sort of Mussolini's fascism came along. So there's very much a sense of you came together at the same time, and then lots of people will say to you, but Mussolini, he built us this bridge, or he built us this road, you know, and there's.
But there is a lot of still in Italy. Unfortunately, there is a lot of fascination about. But if you think about it, Italy, geographically speaking, it's very peculiar because it's an island. It's almost an island in the middle of a Mediterranean, and it's like being in the middle of a donut. And it's pretty. I think that this setting has given us this bonus and malus of being pioneers of many things, many positive things, but also pioneers of a lot of negative things. Like we've been leaders in dictatorship, I would say, with Mussolini. Like we inspired people like, I would say, Trump and Putin and I think and people like that.
Indeed, we're speaking in the not long after Silvio Berlusconi's
which is totally incredible that I'm talking the day after the death of Silvio Berlusconi, and I'm based in Milan, and you can smell the air is so dense about the fact that he died, and it feels for many of us, for many of the people of my generation who literally grew up with Berlusconi, it's like now starting a new year without, I'm quoting a friend of mine, without tutorial, because he has always been there and now it's gone. And we are wondering, oh my God, what is going to happen now with this ultra right and fascist government that we have? And the way that the government, well, I'm turning to politics. Sorry, we should go back.
No, but the thing I was going to say is that in some places where fascism was in power in Europe, there was a national project to sort of deal with that. Like it certainly feels like that's what Germany did, right?
Definitely.
Whereas in Italy, it feels like there was this kind of I don't know, maybe we don't process this. We weren't the leaders of it. And I feel like your work, to bring it back to your work, as we are Muesli, is very much providing structures for people to reckon not just with the history of fascism, but with the history of resistance as well, right? Like you're the Mussolini and the Bella Ciao of it all, right?
Well, yeah, definitely. And we are trying with our work to make political statements. And the most common answer that we get is that we should take, we get this answer saying, politics should not get into games. We shouldn't talk about politics with games. We shouldn't do this with games. Games should be politics free. Whereas we strongly believe that everything you do with your creative hands and mind is politics. No matter what you do, it's a political statement. The way you decide to structure your sentences, the way you decide to pick your color palette, everything that you do is a political affirmation. So we are trying with our games to make Italian people and also people from abroad to know a little bit more on our history. but it's difficult
Mm,
because
mm.
it's not very, this means being a bit unpopular.
But I mean, just to draw this line between anti-fascist practices and
Yeah,
dreaming, I feel like games are very much an associative space. And what you're providing, whether it be a card game or a digital game, you're providing these associative processes through which people can reflect, that they can exist in this associative space. They're not immersed or washed away, but they're not themselves. They're in this space of what
yeah.
if. And in that space of what if rather than what is, they can reflect and find solutions, or reflect on, the hard facts which are building the structure for those associative processes.
Totally true.
So the final question is, I wanted to now open it up to the listening audience. So you sort of talked about how you experience dreaming and how your relationship to dreaming has changed, and also how it influences your practices. I wondered if there was like a thing you wanted to offer to the listening audience in terms of how they could think about dreaming or dreaming practices in relation to their game making practices.
Well, definitely the journal one is not a bad idea. It's very difficult to keep a journal, a dreaming journal. So you should build up your own template. I have my ways of making my notes. Like, for example, I don't write my dreams. I do little sketches and keywords so I can remember the gist of the dream. But also maybe I would like to to throw a challenge to to the most technological people that are listening to this podcast, which is, it's more like a reflection. Because in a game, you are when it comes to games, you are either a game designer, and a game design, like in abstract words. So you are the game creator, and you can play your game, but you know what is going to happen into your game. Or you can be the player, and the player doesn't know what is going to happen into the game until it goes through the game. When you are dreaming, you are both. You are the dream creator and also the dreamer. You are the game master, but also the player of your dream. And as a game master or dream master, you do not know what is going to happen in the dream, even though you have created the dream. So I wish one day, and this is the challenge, we could build something that you can play your own dream, like literally, you can physically play your dream without knowing what happened into your dream. Did it make sense?
Yeah, like, so you're talking about possibility space, right? The possibility
Yeah,
space of game design. And as a game designer, you know the possibility space, and if you play it, you know how
exactly.
different modes of inhabiting it could happen. But a player can only discover the possibility space by playing. So
Exactly.
yeah, that makes sense to me.
I wish to have a game that I wish to build a game and play the game without know the possibility space.
So that to me chimes a little bit with like proc gen game spaces, like the kinds of games that you can create using clever storytelling technologies that can surprise you back, even though you know
Yes,
the ingredients that you've put in. So let's
but
there's actually a really, really good book edited by Tanya X Short and someone I've apologized for forgetting the name of, called Procedural Storytelling in Game Design. And I recommend that to the listeners as a possible avenue for creating undreamable dreams or dreamable undreams. Yeah.
maybe dreamable and dreams. It's really nice. Yeah, dreamable and dreams.
That's a really, really really lovely thing to offer people. And I'm already thinking of my dream diary format. This would be like you saying you would draw it and note down things. Mine immediately came into my head as like a spreadsheet. And I'd have like a drop down box of like genre, feeling, theme, like a different category for each of them that I'd fill out. And then like a one-liner, like it was like a one-liner pitch for like a screenplay or something.
That's awesome. I might switch into your format because it makes more sense. But yeah, definitely building your own format, it's the hint. for starting a journal, because
Yeah.
do not buy the dreaming journal. It doesn't work. You need to build your own.
So listeners, if any of you do like a month of dream journaling, building the format that fits you and the way that you dream, please do let us know. Let us know at Guide Fabrique or We Are Muesli. Both of us, I think, are on Twitter as a place.
Yes, we are.
And tell us about other places that we can find you and your work.
Well, our website, www.wearemuesli.it, and then we are kind of good with IG, Instagram, and Twitter. Not very good with other socials. Sorry, not Telegram. I'm quitting. I'm quitting most of spaces. I'm sorry about it, but yeah.
Well, we'll miss you in all those spaces. But I mean, that is it. Is there anything last that you want to leave with the listening audience?
Oh my God, Hannah. I'm gonna talk in Italian.
Well, do you want to give us like a thanks for listening and goodbye, and have a good anti-fascist rest of your day? Give us that in Italian.
Okay. Grazie a tutti e a tutte per averci ascoltato, e vi auguro una giornata antifascista e piena di amore. A presto.
Grazie mille.
Grazie.
Ciao tutti.
Ciao.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of One Cool Thing from Die Gute Fabrik. As usual, leave that rating or review where you can. It really matters to us. It's improving the discoverability of the podcast every time someone leaves a review. So if you have the time, please do take the time to do it. Another thing to mention is that we are super excited that our next major game project is now public. Saltsea Chronicles is a flooded world, brand new story-driven adventure game where you investigate a mystery as a ship's whole crew. It represents a real step forward in storytelling ambition from Mutazione, but is still beautifully designed and animated, and with what I honestly believe is some world-class storytelling. So please do wishlist Saltsea Chronicles on Steam right now and head to saltseachronicles.com to find out more. I'll be back soon with a new episode speaking with another cool thinker and maker in the field of video games. And in the meantime, check out Die Gute Fabrik on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. You can find us in all those places as Gute Fabrik. That's GUTEFABRIK. This podcast is produced, edited, and sound designed by Tom Wally. Additional production and research by Unamin Kavanagh. Our theme music is by Nick Ellis, whose music you can find under the name Tenby on Bandcamp. That's TENBY. Stay thoughtful, friends. Take care. Goodbye.